We think about the word healing, from the Germanic word that talks about being whole, right? Being whole. And you can't be whole if you're only physically healthy. Right?
Wow.
You can't be whole if you're only spiritually healthy. You can't be whole if you're only mentally healthy. You have to be whole and bring it all together. Which is one of the reasons when I think about equity as we're doing the work, we have to talk about it in a holistic approach. We have to look at everything. We can't talk about just healthcare. We can't talk about just taxation or just housing. We have to look at the entire approach. So one of the great things, and one of the blessing that I've had, is to consistently talk about equity in each and every time. And what does equity look like, and what does equity mean? Here's several examples. I said our pastor there talked about sickle cell. I will be upfront and say, if sickle cell affected communities that did not look like me, the way that it only affects our community, we would have tons more research out there, we'd have tons more dollars, we have tons more information. We don't see that. We can see the difference in the reaction to the opioid crisis. If our communities were treated with the care and the love and the healing that we see in other communities now that we have an opioid crisis, we would have had a very different result in the late 80s and the early 90s. And they ravaged our communities. So then when you see the inequities in health for our brothers and sisters that are currently incarcerated, and there's one of the hardest public hearings that I had to hear was a mother that talked about the loss of her son in lupus, who died incarceration. And she still does not have the full information about what happened to her son. Just if, we took a holistic approach and for what our communities are suffering through, if we had it just a little bit different like other folks, how different would things be? That's what equity is about. So when we talk about we need to put a sugar tax on in order to help fight against obesity and diabetes, if you're not talking about the holistic approach about how we're going to fix food swamps and food deserts, if we're not talking about that, I'm not going to talk to you about your bill, about your sugar tax. If we're not talking about how we're going to make sure that everyone has fair housing and affordable, and truly affordable housing, it's not affordable. What we say is affordable housing, especially for our brothers and sisters in Fairfield County, it is not affordable. If we're not talking about that, I don't want to talk about your sugar tax. That's the wrong approach.